As a result of that, Allah Almighty,
अल्लाह ताला की रहमत जो है उन्हें फिर
the mercy of Allah
चली जाती है और
descends upon these people and envelops them, and they are
बद नताइज से उन्हें महफूज रखती है
they are always protected from the ill effects of this misfortune, those misfortunes. So according to the law of nature, the result of this divine protection reaches all human beings and all creation and all those people who are the believers and the non-believers. So from this subject, Allah Almighty, those people who deny the commandments of Allah Almighty, there is a lesson for them to learn from it, that if they continue to increase in their mischief, then Allah Almighty, who is the one who provides you the comfort and who protects the people, then He can take back His promise of protection. In that case, your destruction is imminent. Allah Almighty says in this verse, Inna Allaha la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. That certainly Allah Almighty does not change the condition of a nation unless they themselves change their internal condition. So that is to say, its meaning is that Allah Almighty, regarding the pious people, He doesn't change His attitude regarding the pious people. Those who are pious, they continue to receive the blessings from Allah Almighty as long as they have the goodness in them, as long as they are following the commandments of Allah Almighty, and as long as they are discharging the rights towards Allah, and as long as they are taking care of the responsibilities towards the fellow beings in a nice way, and as long as collectively as a Jamaat they are fully established on performance of goodness, then by the grace of Allah, that Jamaat is going to get the blessings of Allah Almighty with His grace and mercy. Allah's blessings and grace and His bounties and His rewards, they are taken away at that point when, instead of becoming the friends of Allah Almighty, they take Satan as their friend, and the good deeds, they start disappearing, and injustice increases, and brutality is born there, is created there, and the rights are being usurped, and the government representatives in the bribe and injustices, they go through cross all the boundaries, and everybody is keeping an eye on the wealth of other people, and in the name of religion they are shedding the blood of people. So at that time, Allah Almighty, He withholds His protection and security that is lifted from those people. So this part of the verse makes it clear that it doesn't mean that Allah Almighty does not nice treatment to the wise people, but He doesn't change His attitude to these people unless they themselves put them into vices and they deprive themselves from the mercy of Allah Almighty. This is the tradition of Allah. The history of the world doesn't show this reaction all the time, but the history of religion makes it very clear. The Holy Quran makes this point very clear for us and explains to us when bad deeds they are created in nations, and when good deeds they start disappearing, then the protection and the security from Allah Almighty is lifted from these people, lifted away from these people. Allah Almighty has not said that once you have said the kalima, then you are in my protection permanently. This is a matter of principle which is mentioned in this verse, and people have been warned that amanu wa amilus salihat is the real condition. It is mentioned somewhere else, in so many places in the Holy Quran, that the pious people, after the belief, then the good deeds is the condition, is the requirement.
पूरी उम्र लिए
So there is a moment of reflection for the whole Ummah today, and particularly for those Muslim countries who are increasing in their injustice and oppression
को
of people.
खत्म करने की साजिशें की जा रही हैं।
The nice people, their conspiracy is going on to kill the nice people,
उसके लिए खास
and the point which is mentioned in this verse, people should ponder over it.
तौबा और इस्तिग़फ़ार की
And particularly the Pakistanis, the people from Pakistan,
अल्लाह ताला
they have to do istighfar very much in these days and think over it. Allah Almighty says, "إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ سُوءًا فَلَا مَرَدَّ لَهُ." And when Allah Almighty decides about the bad deed of a nation, then nobody can avert that, nobody can stop that.
से पहले
So there is a need that before that final decision of Allah,
कोशिश की जाए।
then people should turn their bad conditions to the reformed situation. I wish if the people could understand, and the people of Pakistan, they understand this point. Hazrat Masih Maud says
गुनाह के बायस
that the punishment always comes as a result of the sin. Allah Almighty says, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim."
हालत को नहीं बदलता
Allah Almighty does not change the condition of any nation unless they themselves bring about a change in them.
अपने अफ़आल
And when the people, in their own deeds and their actions, when they have incited the wrath of Allah Almighty, and because of their bad deed they have changed the whole situation like this, that there is no fear,
और बजाय
the fear of Allah and piety, they have completely abandoned that. And instead of that, they have followed the path of various vices and various crimes and sins. And their condition is like the pitch dark night, and the beautiful face of Allah Almighty is completely covered under darkness. Then Allah Almighty caused that punishment to descend upon these people, so that people they could understand and come back to God Almighty. So when the punishments of Allah, in whatever form they come, when they do come, they come at a time when this condition is there, which the promised Messiah ﷺ has mentioned in this quotation. And then he says that the one who wishes that for him there should be a change in heaven, that is to say that he should be delivered from the punishment and trials which Allah Almighty has prepared for them, then his first duty is that he should bring about a good change in him. And when he makes this change in him, and then Allah Almighty, according to his promise, the punishment and the trial and the difficulty for him, that is also changed. And that is to say that because of his good deeds, that person he starts getting the blessing from Allah Almighty and becomes the recipient of the bounties of Allah. And as a result of his bad deeds, the signs of the anger of Allah Almighty which were visible, they are removed, they are no more there. So this is a point of reflection, and very deep reflection, particularly the members of the Muslim Ummah nowadays. We wish that they should have the wisdom and to understand, and the Ahmadis should also help them to understand this reality. Allah Almighty says, وَمَا لَهُ مِن دُونِهِ مِن وَالٍ. Then apart from Allah Almighty, there is no one who can come to their help. There is no one who is their friend, who is their protector. And when there is no one besides Allah to protect them or become the helper, or the one who can protect and supervise his people against any bad thing, then people should search for God. That is the point to see what does Allah Almighty like, and where we can find Allah Almighty. And while if despite the prayers, the results of the prayers are not seen, they are not there, visible, and not those results are there which are to be there. And if despite the fasting on a national level, you are going down the drain on the degradation, and despite the fact that some people are offering the pilgrimage, but the signs of improvement are not there, so certainly that means that there is some deficiency somewhere in the performance of these worships. May Allah, the people of the Ummah, they are able to understand this point, and and they should be able to really come back to God in the true sense of the term.